Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quantum Health Connection podcast. My name is Heather Crimson, and I am here with my wonderful co-host, Vanessa Baldwin. And today we have a long-awaited guest. I read Paul's book a while back, and this is Paul Leendertse. He is the author of a book called The Root Cause of Cancer, and he is the founder of the Root Cause Institute. And Vanessa and I are both really big admirers of your work, Paul, and we hope to someday soon take your trainings because you are onto something, and we can't wait to talk to you about the quantum aspects of cancer and emotions and all the things. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so happy to have you, Paul. Your book was amazing. I love how you're getting into how our emotions and our suppression of emotions are really at the root cause of what's going on here, because I really do believe that as well. And that is amazing that you're bringing that to the forefront because a lot of people don't think of cancer that way. They think of cancer is, oh, it's something in a body, something I have to kill, something I have to fight, right? Against. They don't think it's something that they can actually fix by, tending to their trauma or their emotions, right? And I know that's exactly what you do. So amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, something I've come to realize over all these years, focused on the root cause of cancer, going deeper,
Hmm.
is that uh, cancer is a part of us. Like it's not something that's separate from us. And the whole war on cancer is built on the concept that it's separate from us. It's this thing that we have to destroy. Like there's us and then there's the cancer, and we're against the cancer and the cancer's against us. But actually the cancer is appearing, it's spiritually speaking, or I guess we could talk quantumly, it
Hmm.
is the product of what's going on inside of us. So metaphorically, it is our stresses that we've not resolved in our life, and that's showing up in our physical body in the form of cancer. So when we try to destroy the cancer, it's like we're trying to destroy a part of ourselves or a part of our life that really needs to actually change and get into alignment with, like, become harmonious, become peaceful and truthful and in alignment with love. We
Mm.
got to resolve that stress. So the cancer is just the stress appearing in our body. So it's like we're trying to destroy a part of ourselves, really, in the deepest way. I really mean that, both
Yeah.
metaphorically and physically, even.
Right, and then it kind of brings
Mhm.
us into more of a spiritual realm, which I really appreciate deeply, and that it's something we created. It's some manifestation of an imbalance or a disharmony in our internal ecology and landscape as a result of how we've maybe perhaps interacted with those around us, relationships and whatnot. I know there's layers to this, but that means that therefore then if we address our existence, right? It's sort of an existential question of what does our life mean? What have we been doing that's created an environment inside of us that has allowed this symptom, as I would call it, to emerge, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Mhm.
we, no one ever creates it on purpose, of course. It's all a
Right.
subconscious thing. It's related to our deep programming from childhood. It's related to
Mhm.
society's programming. But it really is something we've inadvertently ended up creating. And that's really hard sometimes to accept that, to really look at that, consider that that's actually what's happened.
Mhm.
But if we can't do that, then we will only see it as something that's happened to us, and then that's what gets us into the whole war against it. But if we can do what you're saying, realize that somehow we have created this and we take responsibility for it in the most spiritual way, then we actually are stepping into our
Yeah.
power to change it. Because if somehow we have the power to create it, we must have the power to uncreate it, or, make it go away. And
Mhm.
that's actually reality. Cancer can just go away, and it has for many people. It just dissolves and disappears, but it's only if it's really truly resolved, and the resolution's deeper than the physical. There's
Right.
the most of the world is focused on the physical, like juicing and all this stuff,
Hmm.
which is can be helpful. It's really important to create a purified
Hmm.
state in our being and clean up our body. Absolutely. But I've been doing this for 16 years, and I just have endless lists of examples of people coming to me that have tried every physical thing in the book and their cancer still isn't going away. So I know from experience that it's the physical isn't the ultimate solution.
Yes, I love that you said that. And I feel like if we resolve that, maybe that internal conflict, you get back into alignment, you fix those stressors, that's really, really, really root cause, right? If we
Mhm.
physically just remove the cancer, right? Like we remove whatever the organ where the cancer is, or we remove the cancer from the body, what I see is it just grows back in another area, like
Mhm.
so often. So the physical is not actually getting to the root, right? Like how many people do you know, right, that had cancer here and they remove that and then they go and they it just comes back somewhere else and it just keep going through the
Hundreds.
cycle and
Yeah.
cycle and it's like over and over and it's like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, like you're not actually fixing the root of the problem and that's why it keeps coming back because the physical is not where the root is, right?
Mhm. Just in the last 2 years, hundreds of
Yeah.
people, and
Mm.
I'm recording these now too because I'm going to put together like a whole resource on this
Oh,
so that
awesome.
people can see like this is this person's story, this person's story. I was diagnosed at this time. I destroyed the cancer. It was gone with chemotherapy or whatever. Then 1 month later, it's metastasized in 3 different locations in my body, or three
Mm.
months later. And just if you can see real stories of people, it really helps give people confidence to start like believing in themselves and realizing that there's more to healing than just trying to destroy it. And
Yeah.
the real, in fact, healing has nothing to do with destroying cancer. That's not healing, right? Like that's destroying something, yes, and there can be a time and place for it. I've seen it be beneficial for people,
Mm.
but it's really important to understand that it's not healing.
Yeah.
And to really be done with cancer, we have to heal,
Mhm.
you know?
That's a really good
So.
distinction. And the idea that we're at war and that something like our body is wrong or that there's a
Mhm.
malfunctioning, all of that is doesn't that just doesn't help. And that puts us in this victim stance and it creates lots of fear and all kinds of negative emotions on top of whatever you haven't been able to metabolize, literally, right? And so I kind of what came up for me was I was hearing you through up until now is how would you differentiate what your approach is from something like, and forgive me, I don't know the new name. I can never remember the new name of German New Medicine. Like,
Ah,
how is it?
okay.
That's a good question,
I'm,
Heather. I
s- I'm
love it.
so I'm so glad you asked that question because sometimes people think I teach German medicine. I don't.
Mm.
Um, and sometimes people can sometimes think that I'm teaching the same thing as German medicine, and I'm absolutely not.
Mm.
So German new medicine, according to Dr. Hammer, he's thinking that some kind of an event occurs in our life and then that triggers a biological response. And our body has everything under control, and it's actually doing this on purpose. And we just have to go through certain healing phases in many instances, and we need to trust the body and so on. And the event, for example, that activated this thing is done and gone, right?
Mhm,
It's just an event. That's
Yeah.
actually really inaccurate. Um, the body is actually struggling to eradicate this cancer and solve this problem of cancer that has formed, and it cannot succeed. So the body cannot eliminate the cancer until we resolve the thing that's going on inside us now,
Mhm.
emotionally, not something that happened in the past. It's actually something is happening right now. So like if a person has cancer, it's not because of an event that occurred back then and that's all done. We're carrying something inside of us from that event psychologically and emotionally, and that's related to suppression and that's related to fear. And this is causing tension in our energy field.
Mhm.
And that tension in our energy field is disrupting the biology in our body, and our body is actually compromised, and it's not in control. It's in an inflammatory response, and it's trying to solve the problem. But like I said, it cannot solve the problem until we resolve the root cause. So
Mm.
I've actually had people come to me last minute now with stage 4 metastasized cancer that have been following these German new medicine concepts, thinking that their body's just in a healing phase and they need to just trust that everything's going to be okay. And then they do like a last minute session with me when they're in palliative care. stage 4 metastasized cancer and realized that that's actually not how it works.
Wow.
Mm.
So
Wow.
it's like German New Medicine is, um, I have respect for German New Medicine though,
Yeah.
because German New Medicine understands that there's something deeper going on. It's not physical. So that's huge right there. That's
Yeah.
amazing. But Dr. Hammer, I don't think he really truly understood the deeper spiritual implications of what was actually going on. So he was so confident though, because he knew that stress is the cause. And then from there, he developed just a huge, huge array of theories that I
Mm.
disagree with almost all of them. So
Mm.
like he thinks that the cause of testicular cancer is related to a loss, and not a single cancer patient I've had with testicular cancer, and I've had testicular cancer myself and healed that
Mm.
with my own methodologies. And Dr. Hammer had testicular cancer and didn't heal. So he had surgery.
Mm.
So a lot
Right.
of people don't even know that he had surgery.
Right.
So it's not because of loss. He thought it was because of loss. And testicular cancer, by the way, is always related to sex and trust or safety issues.
Mm.
So I respect German New Medicine. If someone worked with a German New Medicine practitioner, I'd be like, okay, that's good because they're going to take them deeper.
Yeah.
But once we get deeper, then I think there's some things that aren't quite true. They're just
Mm.
not accurate. They're theories and they sound great. And some of the theories are very empowering too. Like to
Mm-hmm.
tell a person, look, your body can be trusted here. Your body is in control in a very real way. You
Yeah.
need to trust it. You don't need to just attack cancer. That's huge. People need to hear that because that's true. But I want to just describe something to make this a little more accurate.
Mm.
So our body is in control in the sense that it can eradicate this cancer once we address the root cause.
Mm.
Like when we solve the stress that's going on in our life and that's actually resolved, then the tension will be released in our energy field. It will no longer be continuously harming that part of our physiology. And our body can certainly go in and clean up all the damaged cells, repair all the tissue. The inflammation will gradually disappear. The cancer cells will be um, cleansed out of the body, and we're good to go.
Mm.
Right? So our body, you see what I'm saying? Our body definitely understands what it's doing. But German New Medicine oftentimes is thinking that the symptoms themselves, like the fact that the cancer is there, means that the body understands what it's doing and has everything under control. I think hopefully I've explained how that's not
Yeah.
quite how it works.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes
Yeah,
sense to me. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's very interesting. That was a really good question, Heather. And because yeah, it's there's a difference there for sure.
I want to point something out. I had to surrender my ego here about this very thing I'm talking about
Yeah.
because I used to think, so in my first book, if you read my book, really beneficial. It explains how cancer absorbs sugar and
Yeah.
how to eat properly and many, many things important about understanding cancer. But back when I wrote that book, which was in 2010, I hadn't worked with people with cancer yet.
Oh.
That was a theory that I had, which
Mm.
led to me working with people with cancer. They're like, "Wow, you're the first person that said stress is actually somehow causing cancer." And nothing I've done has worked. So can I talk to you about the stress in my life? And I'm like, yes. So we would sit down and talk for 3 hours about the stress in their life. And then I had people's cancer disappearing after going through like a significant process of addressing and resolving the stress in their life.
Mm.
Cancer's just disappearing. So I believed that my theory was entirely true.
Mm-hmm.
And I've realized that there's a part of it that I had to change, like
Mm.
update. And that is that, well, first the main part is still true. Stress is the cause of cancer, and it's a little more than that. It's suppression, and it's a little more than that. It's deeply spiritual, which is
Mm-hmm.
difficult to
Mm-hmm.
explain, but I go super deep into this in my level 2 training, which I just finished.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But all of this suppression of stress and unresolved stuff then causes cancer to grow. And I used to think that the cancer is the body in a physical survival state. And this, I think, is what Hammer was theorizing. His is a little different, though. He was like, it's a biological response and something has
Hmm.
been activated. In my theory, like I hadn't even heard of Dr. Hammer, and I came to a similar theory, but mine was that it's a survival mechanism that is working and the body knows what it's doing. But I started to go through experiences with people with cancer where, for example, the reality is if cancer isn't resolved and it will continue to expand and grow and appear in other parts of the body. And what it does is it actually consumes a person.
Hmm.
So that's what actually happens. And it's awful.
Mm.
A person's weight, they just keep losing their weight. And as time goes on, they become skeletal and they will eventually die.
Yeah.
Not from treatments, not from treatments, from the cancer.
Mm.
Certainly, people die from treatments too. That's a very real reality. But also, people actually die from cancer. When I started to, because I just became completely involved in cancer, working with all kinds of different people with cancer, seeing all sorts of different stories, like personal one-on coaching sessions. Then I eventually started to realize that people die of cancer. They do. So if it's a biological response, that's not the wisest thing for the body to do, you know?
Hmm.
To like if the body has everything under control and it's just a biological response, or in my case, it's a survival mechanism,
Hmm.
why does it lead to death? But then I started to have lots of discoveries, like I discovered something called black salve. And if you put black salve on a tumor, it kills the tumor immediately. Like it takes 24 hours, the tumor's dead. But so I had a client who wanted to use black salve, so I got to observe this and I watched what she did with it. And I watched the tumor die and I took pictures of it. And I'm thinking I'll probably put this in my second book. But
Mm.
after the tumor died and we took the black salve off, the tumor just grew back again in about 4 days.
Oh, wow. That's fast.
4 days. Shocking. It grew back to the same size and then it stopped growing. So it's about the size of a golf ball. It grew like by the day, you could almost see it by the hour. Like, oh my God, it's like it's spread a little bit more there. And then after 4 days, it's the size of a golf ball again. But then it stopped growing.
Hmm.
It's like really mysterious. Like, why would it do that? So I then ran into someone named Doug Kaufman who wrote the book, The Fungal Link. And he
Mm.
has a TV show called Know the Cause. And he was a speaker at the Cure to Cancer conference in San Diego, and I was speaking there too. And my talk was about how stress is the cause of cancer, and his talk was about how cancer is a fungus
Mm.
and
This
how
sounds
the
like
cause of
terrain theory now. It sounds like a terrain theory thing we're heading towards. I don't know.
yeah, sure. This fits
Hmm.
into terrain now.
Hmm.
And so we had a disagreement. We totally got along well. He invited me on his TV show, but he was convinced that cancer is caused by fungus at the time. I'm pretty sure that's what he thought. I was saying cancer is caused by stress. So we're like, how does this fit together? And as the years went on, though, and I discovered Black Salve and started to have different experiences, then I realized we're both right. That's what it is.
Mm.
Stress is causing um, our energy field to become stuck. Our energy field governs the health of our physical body. Our physical body becomes compromised then. It goes into, you could say, a death state. Like the cells are suffering, they're dying, they're restricted. Fungus actually starts to grow there. So
Mm.
it's not that fungus is causing the problem. It's that the unresolved stress is causing the energy problem in our body, and then fungus grows as a result. So if you combine Doug's theory and my theory, my old theory, now you have my new explanation of cancer. So everything I teach in my book is still the same. Stress is the cause. We got to resolve stress. We got to clean up our lives. We got to go through a change in order to heal. But it's not a physiological survival mechanism, or like Commerce thinks a biological survival mechanism. It's actually an emotional survival state that
Yeah.
we're in. and our body is physically compromised because of that, we're in a coping response. We're in a psychological survival state of suppression, and that's what's causing the cancer.
Hmm.
So it's a real problem. Like the cancer is a problem in the body. And yes, our body can heal. Yes, we can change it. But we got to start facing the cancer, confronting the cancer for what it really is. And we got to go through a real healing journey, a real healing transformation that is totally spiritual.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So walk us through how you do that with somebody. Like when someone says, I come to you and I say, I have this cancer. And I'm also curious, like when you said about testicular cancer and your journey there. So I have like so many questions. And then also like how, you related that to, obviously that makes sense to be something on the sexual sphere, right? But like I'm curious, like if thyroid cancer, that you notice like a trend, or you notice like a trend in brain cancer, or you notice a trend in
Mhm.
like breast cancer, like
Mhm.
emotional correlations. So I have like 8 questions. So I don't mean to do that to you. But I also want to know,
I
like,
love
say I
it.
come to you with like cancer and you're like, okay, I've got breast cancer, right? And you're like, okay, what do I do, Paul? Like, how do you
Uh,
help somebody, of course,
okay. Well, yeah. So over all these years now, 16 years, I started noticing that every single time someone has breast cancer, and we look at the stresses involved in their life, like what's actually just going on,
Mhm.
it's always very, very similar. It's the same general thing. And I've tracked it back to childhood as well. So childhood
Mm,
traumas and
yes.
emotional pain, there's specific types of experiences in childhood that then lead to someone developing breast cancer later.
Mm,
And then that's a different kind of psycho-emotional stress experience that causes colon cancer, but it's always the same for colon cancer. It's always the same for testicular cancer. It's always the same for lung cancer.
Wow.
So
mm,
those patterns emerged, and I wasn't expecting that. Like
mm.
no one taught me that. I just started realizing, whoa, like the last time someone had lung cancer, someone had recently died in their life.
Yeah, some sort of
And now
grief.
now I have another client and they have lung cancer and someone's died. So then the next time I would have a client with lung cancer contacting me, I would be like, okay, I wonder if when I ask them what kind of events have occurred in their life, if someone has died. And sure enough, they would say, my mom died in the hospital 3 months before I was diagnosed with lung cancer. So
Wow.
then I'm just kind of blown away and I started recording this. And so after 16 years, I've mapped it all out. So now I know what the cause of cancer is in general for anyone that works with me. I already know what the cause is. So now it's been about figuring out how to resolve that. So first identify what it is. And then I teach how to identify it. I have a whole system that I teach in my training of how to like the right questions to ask, how to set up a timeline, and how to figure out what's really going on. Then there's a process of resolving it. So I have in my level 1 training a 15-step psycho-emotional processing tool where it's a combination of feeling our emotions and then psychologically processing, meaning we perhaps we need to forgive somebody. Perhaps we have anger that we've never expressed. Perhaps we have guilt. We need to understand, though, so we need to feel these things so we're not suppressing, but we also need to understand them and think about them and change everything. We have to go through a process. So I have a 15-step process that I teach in my level 1 training. In level 2, then it's really helpful to then be able to correlate and go, okay, whoa, I can totally see why I behave the way I do today, why I'm stuck in this stress today, because my childhood, this happened.
Mhm.
And I can see how that's totally connected. That's huge. That because like to heal of cancer, you have to be educated to understand why it's there. You have to have you have to understand what spiritual strength is and start building it. And spiritual strength, how I define it, is the ability to go through to face our fears, to
Mm,
go through a change. And I teach that to heal, you have to rebirth. You actually have to rebirth yourself. You can't stay the same.
mm,
And it
mhm.
can't just be a little change like, oh, I'm going to start eating organic food. That's amazing. That's great
Good
for
step.
sure. But that's like a support. That's what will help give you more energy and proper nutrition to support your real change process, which is like a whole rebirth of self. And
Mm,
it's like coming home to ourselves is how I say it. It's really coming, it's shedding our ego, shedding layers of our ego and coming home to our heart.
mm,
Our ego doesn't exist in the heart.
No,
mm,
no, it
That's
doesn't.
our soul in the heart. That's our soul. And we have to recover our soul because we've been losing our soul in the stresses of life.
A soul. Yeah, it's like your essence, right? I had a coach once a number of years ago that would say, "Don't be stingy with your essence. This is a marketing program." I'm like, okay. But I think of the word essence and it's like that is your vital force. That's your light. That's right. That's your
mm,
art energy, all of those things.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
I thought it was a beautiful statement. But also about emotions, like in all the years I've been doing psychotherapy, the way I define it now, when I am working with clients is, emotions are just energy, but they're very potent energy. And that energy exists in your body. You're going to feel it viscerally. And that's why it's important to be connected to your body and not just think about it only. There has to be a holistic approach. And also that emotions are because you know how it is, you guys. It's like, oh, well, I don't really want to feel that. Okay, well,
mm,
that's one choice you have. But what are the consequences? How has that been working for you? And people are so terrified of emotions because they are so potent. And they
yeah.
Hmm.
also, though, tell us what matters because we don't have emotions about things we don't care about. So emotions inform us as to our spiritual values, our, life values. And we have to be able to face them and embrace them, which, like you're saying, Paul, entails being able to address what is still present within us that we may have experienced way back when and think it's not relevant because it was 30, 40 years ago. It's like, doesn't matter. Clients are always blown away. And when I tell them that it doesn't matter if it's been 20 years, well, I thought I'd forget about it. No, you're never going to forget about it. So I
No.
describe it to them. And one of the approaches I trained in was a blend of somatic experiencing and EMDR. So it's like using bilateral stimulation. I literally sit in front of them and tap on their knees. And I'm basically bringing up whatever has charge or emotional energy. And I'm working with them. And you should see all the squiggling that happens and things come up. And then right here, there's a bearing down and they push it back down, right?
Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
what compromises our voltage. Like you're saying, like our whole energy level drops, and then we don't literally have the energetic wherewithal to, for the body to be able to do what it needs to do. And I think, I don't know if that kind of correlates with or aligns with what you're talking about, but until we get to what's been pushed down and address that, and then the cognitive aspect is what meaning are you going to make out of what happened to you? It's the holistic approach.
Yeah. Wow. I just love what you said. That was really well explained.
Thank
I
you.
totally loved it. I love that you said our emotions inform us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like they're there for a reason.
Hmm.
And there's all kinds of antidepressant drugs and all
Yeah.
sorts of anti-human stuff, right? Like if you have pain in your body, take a drug to get rid of the pain. But wait a second, the pain is there protecting you. It's letting you know something's harming you.
Right.
And so you've got to figure out what it is that's harming you. Don't numb the pain.
Hmm.
And usually if pain is numbed, it also really decreases the motivation to figure out what the hell that is that needs
Oh
to be
yeah, pain
solved.
is such a motivator, right? For you to
Yeah.
figure it out. If you don't take
Yeah.
anything, you're like, I want to fix it, right? Pain is such a strong motivator. I've dealt with a lot of chronic pain, and that's been my journey and what got me into holistic healing. But people don't like, they're like, well, you just changed your entire life. I'm like, because when you're in chronic pain, you will do anything to fight that and stop it because it's
Hmm.
it's unpleasant, right? So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's such a strong motivator. But yeah, I love that you said that it's there for a reason, right? Like it's to inform us something's not going right here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was saying before we started recording, maybe I'll bring it up again because it was a really good conversation we ended up having before we even recorded. Uh, we were talking about how the human race is programmed very, very heavily to do something that is totally backwards from what the proper thing would be. And that is if we develop a symptom in our body, whatever that is, even if it's low energy or pain or inflammation or like a full-blown diagnosis of something,
Yeah.
that first of all, it means something's wrong with our body. Second, that to fix it, we have to go outside of ourselves and find a solution somewhere out there. And it's usually some kind of a product or a person that specializes in solving that thing for us. And that is really potentially a death sentence. I'm not kidding, because the longer we go outside of ourselves and think that something's wrong with our body, the more likely it is that things will escalate and escalate. And the end of that whole process of escalating is death. Like, we can die if we don't actually solve the problem. So the reality is, and what I share is that what we're supposed to do actually when we have a symptom in our body, when we notice, is the first thing we should do is reflect. We should ask ourselves, okay, what's causing my body to grab my attention here to let me know something's out of harmony here with like health, with love, with truth, with peace? And we need to reflect, because something's happening. Either we're doing it or someone's doing it to us, and that's causing symptoms to appear in our body. So reflect first, and then who do we go to solve the problem? Well, listen to our heart, connect to our soul. And if you're going to get support, work with someone like, with the consciousness that we're talking about, with, that we're sharing about, because a real practitioner, in my opinion, that's going to have a lot of value is someone that's going to help get to the root of it.
Yes.
Right. So if you're working with someone that's helping you get to the root of it, that's a different story. They're helping you take responsibility for yourself. But that model that most of humanity is indoctrinated with is to say something's wrong with our body and we have to get someone else to take responsibility for it.
Right.
And that literally turns into a death sentence if it's not changed. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating.
No, it makes total sense though. And I think
it's like a smoke alarm going off in your house saying that there's a fire, and you just ignore it and ignore it and ignore it and ignore it until the whole house burns down. So
yeah. And also I think that fear response, right? We have all this, it's a lot of fear when you go into like the medical community, the medical model for these things, because it's like you have to kill it. There's a lot of fear there. It's kind of like, I've been there where they're like, you have to do this. You have to follow these protocols. You have to do this. Otherwise, there's no other option, basically. And I think that kind of fear and programming is another big problem of why we have so much cancer too, and any disease really, because it's like we are literally trained to think that they have the answers when really the answers are inside of you, really. And that, it's really a scary time. I agree.
Yeah. And the medical system too, like I've learned too, that in the beginning I was really, because I lost people to cancer in my family. And we used treatments and all these things. This is before I started.
I'm sure that's what got you. Is that what got you involved in finding this out?
Yeah, that's what got me into it, because we tried everything. We did every alternative thing we could get our hands on. We did all the traditional stuff, chemo, radiation, surgery, and 2 people that were close to me died. Nothing worked.
So sorry.
So that's what made me go deeper, though. So it was a gift in disguise for me, because not to say that this journey has been easy, because it's been really tough at times. I wanted to eject from this root cause work a few times. It's just so heavy and so, but it's also so rewarding. So anyways, it's my legacy. It's my passion, my dream,
Yeah.
But, I forget what I was saying there. I went on a tangent and now I forget what I was
Well, it made
saying.
me think too, like I want people to know, like there is no magic supplement. There is no like juice cleanse that you're going to do that's likely going to solve this, right? We have to go deeper, right? Like I want people to hear that message, because you were saying that like you tried the regular traditional stuff, you tried the holistic things, and a lot of times the people go to diet and they go to these cleanses and then they go to like different supplements and things like that, like to help us detox, right? And all that. And they do all the testing, and it's like, that's really, again, that's not root cause. And a lot of people will claim that that is root cause. And I don't really think that that's root cause in any way, shape, or form. But they will say that. time and time
The
again that's root cause medicine. And I'm like, I
uh-huh.
don't think so, but
Yeah, I hear that a lot now too. I see root cause and I'm like, what? That's
it's a
not the
very
root cause.
common,
Yeah,
phrase that people
the
use.
root cause is not physical. The root
Yeah.
cause is in the quantum field. The root cause is
Mhm.
spiritual. It all begins there. The
Yes.
physical is just the end result. Um, but yeah, what I wanted to say, I remember now, is that I used to just be so angry about the medical system
Yeah.
because I lost people to cancer, in my family. But over the years, I've become wiser and more experienced, and I realized that um, there's value in lots of the things that are done. Sometimes surgery really truly saves a person's life. If they
Yeah.
were not able to get that surgery at that time, they'd be done.
Mhm.
The medical can extend a person's life. They can increase survival time. It's true. I've seen it happen.
Mm,
They're not getting to the root cause. That's absolutely true. But, some it can help in certain scenarios,
mm.
but it can be the detriment as well. Because if we just get lost there and don't get into the deeper healing work, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. You have to get to the deeper levels, right?
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah.
if it's relational too, because it's either your relationship with yourself in a spiritual way or your relationship with others. So a big focus of my life and work has been attachment because that's where a lot of us have experienced some kind of wounding, right, in your family of origin and whatnot. And so it just one example that comes up is I had a dear friend who was a massive health enthusiast. She was a health practitioner. She wrote cookbooks. She did the macrobiotic diet. I mean, we're talking way back in the 90s, right? So, and hardcore, but her marriage was not healthy. And so after 19 years, when she finally extricated herself from that marriage, she developed a diagnosis of breast cancer. And she had been the most healthy person I knew. So it didn't really matter how much she exercised, how pure her food was, when she literally lived in a state of chronic stress and then had a mother who had bipolar. And I think her mother actually jumped off a building and died. So, you're talking about massive trauma
Uh-huh.
then this marriage, and then she got a divorce, but then she got the diagnosis, and then she tried everything natural and conventional, like you're talking about, but then she succumbed to it. And then luckily I was there to get able to get there right before she transitioned, even though she wasn't responsive, and I needed that for myself, that closure. But I'll never
Mm,
forget, I'm thinking, gosh, it really is about the emotional experience and the energy about that, because
Mhm.
you can have the most pristine lifestyle, but if you've lived in a state of like low grade warfare your whole life, you can't expect your body to be able to overcome or have the resources it needs to do what it needs to do to clear the cancer. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. I would say that woman, she didn't have the tools, the psycho-emotional processing tools, and she probably didn't have the spiritual understanding of um what it means to love herself
mm,
and how to go through this rebirthing process. So she ended a relationship, and that may have actually solved some challenges she was having because there's probably challenges in the relationship. But then when she turned to herself, we're not prepared.
mm,
I've said this before in some other podcasts that, um, first of all, we're not prepared for having a relationship, and like the tools and how to process our emotions and deal with upsets and how to really truly grow together.
yeah.
We're not taught that.
Mhm.
Because we're exposed to unhealthy relationship dynamics right from the almost the day we're born. One of them is the school system, where we're put into
Oh, yeah.
school against our will. No one asks us, "Would you like to have this experience?" We're just told that we have to, and then if we do express ourselves and say, "Wait a second, I'd actually like to play. I'd like to follow my heart," then we're punished, potentially controlled, manipulated, tricked,
Drugged.
bribed, yeah, drugged, yeah, all kinds of stuff. Like, I mean, it's not a healthy relationship, and teachers aren't taught about like child rearing, and that's not their job. Their job isn't to raise a child, and their job isn't to have a relationship. It's to teach information. right? And that's the bottom line. It's like, can I get this information into this child? And then, so we're not prepared. So after all that schooling and after our parents have been at work all day, every day, this is how society's come. This is the point we're at in society where parents are so lost in paying taxes or whatever that like there isn't a whole lot of time for quality connection, really.
No,
Even
zero.
even for themselves. Even for
No.
themselves. And it has to start there. You've got to actually have a good relationship with your own self and your own freedom and space before you can really so there's a lot of obstacles here that we have to overcome. But it takes a real act of spirituality to start changing this stuff. Or we can just be like, oh, whatever. Or like it's too much or I can't. Like, we
Yeah.
gotta just be really devoted because it's not an easy task. But so that's the first thing. We're not even taught to have a healthy relationship. But underneath all of that, once we get out of that unhealthy relationship, like you shared, this woman, the relationship ended, then we're like, how the heck do we have a relationship with ourselves? Because that's one of the things we lost way back when, right? So when we're told you have to go to school now and you can't follow your heart, which means to love yourself,
Mhm.
instead
Yeah.
you have to love us. Then way later, when we're 30, 40, 50, or whatever, and we have to have a relationship with ourselves, we're just totally lost because all we can turn to is our subconscious programming, our ego. If we don't have the tools and the preparation and some education like this kind of education,
Yeah.
then a person is very prone to developing cancer in that kind of experience
Yeah.
because they'll go into suppression,
Yes.
coping.
Coping strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that
I,
makes so much sense. Yeah.
I've
Go
had
ahead.
a lot of clients now. I've discovered some pretty profound stuff especially the last few years when I started doing so many single sessions with people, like from
Mm-hmm.
all over the world, single session. And then next day, a new person, next day, a new person. So it exposed me to so much. I actually discovered something that I think you guys will find profound. I'd like to share it.
Please.
Yes, please.
I noticed that my clients were saying, like, a common story that I hear is, Paul, I don't understand why I have cancer because I'm healthy, right?
Mm.
And in particular, I just recently cut out all these bad things from my life. And then like 3 months later, I developed cancer. I'm like, that is very interesting. What did you cut out? And I've heard many times people say, well, I cut out alcohol. I stopped
Yeah.
drinking alcohol, and then 3 months later I had cancer.
Mm.
And so what I believe that I've come across here is that alcohol and
Coping.
other drugs are ways to cope,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not actually happy in our life, but alcohol gives us a little bit of like a
Mm-hmm.
support. So we kind of have some happiness through the alcohol. If you take the alcohol away, then the reality hits. And
Yep.
it's like, what the hell are you going to do now that you're facing reality?
Yep.
Or the cigarette or the whatever the addiction would be. And so if we cut those things out with willpower, we're like, okay, I've got to get healthy. I want to get healthy. It's bad to drink alcohol. It's bad to smoke. Great. But if we cut them out with willpower without actually resolving the real reason we have the need for that addiction, then there's only one thing left to do to cope, and that
Mm.
is suppression.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Depression. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I've found there are sometimes cancers occurring because people cut their addiction out
Hmm. Wow.
without a real resolution
Mm-hmm.
like along with it.
Yeah. Wow.
So humanity is really lost. It's real like we've got a pretty big problem considering the rate of cancer is 1 in 2 people. And I point out too that
Did you say
the
1 in 2 people? That's the rate of cancer?
yeah, that's statistics. Canadian Cancer Society. Yeah.
Wow.
It's 40 something percent. So I'm saying 1 in 2, but and it I think it's
That's
higher
high.
than what the statistics show
Yes.
too.
Yes.
Because there's lots of people that don't get diagnosed properly
Yeah.
and there's a reality too where tumors form in a person's body and then just disappear and people don't really even know.
Right, because they had the stress and then they like resolve the stress and then it
Exactly.
goes away and then they had no
Yeah.
idea that they even had cancer.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's this other reality. I kind of like to share something else with you guys that I think is pretty interesting. Um, this is a theory that I have that I'm pretty confident about. It's a theory, but I realized over the years that cancer wasn't a survival mechanism that's physical, and I've shared that. And what I've come to realize is that what I think is actually happening is that we have an energy field as a living being. And Heather, you're talking about the human soul, and it's the center of the energy that like flows through us.
Mhm.
When a person dies, all the energy leaves, right? So when we're alive and our soul's in our body, the energy is flowing. The energy is where our emotions exist. The energy is infused with our emotions. So if we're happy, our energetic body is carrying the happiness. If we feel guilt, it's carrying the energy of guilt, etc. So when we suppress, we lock the energy field. So suppression is the restriction of the flow of our emotions, right?
Yep.
So our energy field gets stuck, it gets blocked, it's not moving. And that's where the cancer forms.
Mm.
So what I realized about heart disease, I made some connections.
Mm.
Do you know that there's almost sort of like not such a thing as heart cancer?
Right,
It
exactly.
doesn't, it doesn't really, like, I mean, in my whole 16 years, I've never had a client with heart cancer. And I've never heard of someone with heart cancer. I've Googled it, and if I Google it over the whole world, then apparently it exists, but it's like 0.01% or 0.001% of the, so apparently it exists, but it's like super, super rare. So isn't that interesting? Like we have cancer all the time in the breast and all the time in the colon and so on in the brain, but never in the heart really. And so then I realized something else. The heart is the only part of the body that never stops moving,
Mm.
right?
I was a
Isn't that
vortex.
interesting? Even when we're sleeping, it's actually moving all the time.
Mhm.
So my theory is that disease is actually cancer energetically, but
Mhm.
it doesn't appear as cancer because the heart is constantly moving on a physical level. So even though our energy field is stuck and not flowing at the level of the heart, because the heart is constantly moving, that keeps it alive enough that fungus doesn't begin to grow there,
Oh yeah.
right? We don't get like a true enough breakdown
There's
and
no
death state
stagnation.
of the cells. Yeah, there's not enough of a stagnation for cancer to actually flourish there. So instead, though, there is enough stuckness and a restriction that we can have a blood clot. So heart disease, I think, really is just the same phenomenon of cancer on an energetic level. So now, if you look at the statistics of
Yeah.
heart disease
Yes.
and combine that with the statistics of cancer, then what we're really experiencing in humanity is almost 100% of the human race has a problem by the age of 50, 60, whatever the age, like cancer is also happening 20, 30, where there's an unresolved stress occurring in our energy field that's leading to disease. And now, if you go real spiritual now, this is scientific too, but if we talk spiritually, stress is not love. So humanity has a love problem. That's what's actually happening.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You can just witness it, or when you go out and you're in society, like you can feel most people, I would say, don't feel safe. Like they don't feel grounded, they don't feel safe. They're under pressure all the time to perform.
Hmm.
There's such a dearth of meaningfulness in people's lives, right? It's hard for people to get traction, to get security. I mean, you always need to have more. I mean, it's just like this endless stress of being alive. And yes, can nature be dangerous? If we had all the love and that was ubiquitous, you still have the challenge of, feeding yourself or whatever, getting housing. This is true. But in general, I was thinking maybe I'm just weird. It's like, does this really have to be this way? Like, isn't there another way to go about this? I mean,
I love what you're saying.
Safer for people? Why does it have to be all this chaos and death? And today's a good day to be talking about that. You know what I'm saying today, the voting day. But it's like, what are we doing? We could have such a different reality, but how is that going to
Oh,
happen?
oh, I just, I love that you're saying that. Like, is this normal? Should it be like this? Like, I don't think so. I think, and I used to be, how can I present this? I usually take hours to, because I want to talk about God now, and this is like a really sensitive subject. It's a triggering subject potentially. It's a confusing subject. There's all kinds of belief systems about what God even is. But over
Sounds
the years, pardon?
sounds fun. Let's do it.
Okay. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it justice in a short talk, but let's open it up. I started to kind of realize as the years went by that somehow there seems to be almost like a structure to existence, like an existential sort of like rule book even. Like when we are actually choosing something that is actually based in love, it is good for us. But if we choose something that's not based in love, then it actually damages us. And it's kind of built that way.
Mhm.
Like and it's built that way not by mankind, but by something outside of mankind. So I started kind of opening up to this concept of like, is there something beyond us that somehow has some kind of a role in this existence, you know? And if you start looking at creation, it consists of two creations, main creations, creations of mankind, but then there's creation that has nothing to do with mankind. So if you go out into the world, you'll find the ocean.
Mhm.
The ocean is incredible. Like, I mean, I've been getting interested in free diving, diving deep without any gear and exploring. And it's just amazing. It's incredible. It's very nourishing to the soul. Very meditative, highly suggest free diving. But anyways, uh, something outside of mankind created that thing, the ocean. Also, everything that's in the ocean generally was created by something outside of mankind. Like we didn't create fish and whales, and then if you go into the onto the planet, we didn't create trees, we didn't create fruit, we didn't create animals. And then if you go to our human body, we didn't even create that. Now there's like this crossing over thing where the human body kind of is our creation in a different sense because if we have sex, we can create one of those bodies again, right? If we take a sperm and an egg, but we still aren't in charge of how that body grows and like why it is the way it is. Like we didn't design the human liver or the human brain. Somehow it's already designed. It's really incredible. And so now if you look at like the creations of mankind or us, we can create stuff. Like right now we're on a computer or a phone, and that is not a product of creation, or let's just use the word God. So God didn't create the laptop or the phone, but God created the ocean. So the interesting thing is, if whatever we're connecting to inside this complex creation, whether it's mankind or from, let's say, God, or sorry, if it's from God, it generally supports our health and well-being. So if we eat fruit, it's good for us. If we eat vegetables, it's good for us. Even if we eat animals, well, that could be controversial, but like I've eaten a lot of meat in my life, but I eat only free-range organic animals. Like I raised my own animals and did that myself. And that's entirely different ballgame than like a McDonald's burger from a factory farmed, unlovingly raised animal, right? So anyways, I think you get my point. There seems to be like if we betray someone, that's not love. That tends to lead to stress.
Mhm.
If we're integral and we um, fulfill our commitments, that generally leads to well, it doesn't lead to like stress. It's appreciated. It creates feelings of safety, trust. So there is these kind of rules that exist. You know what I'm saying? There's rules. And we can't go against, well, we can go against the rules, but we can't change them. That's the other thing. We can't change them. Like God created water and our body has to consume enough water in order to operate properly. We have to breathe. It's like a rule. And you could be like, no, no, I don't want water. I want to drink pop. I want to drink alcohol. I want to drink coffee. Right? Oh, I don't care about the air. I'm going to breathe paint fumes. I'm going to breathe pollution. I'm going to breathe chemtrails. Um, then it's like, well, okay, you can do that, but that's going against some rules that are already put into place. So I kind of just realized over time that to me, what spirituality actually is, how I define it, and how I try best to live by, is to learn the truth of these laws and get myself in harmony with them so that I'm in alignment with actual truth and love. And our ego can often be like, well, I think I know what the truth is and I think I know what love is. But if you're wrong about that, you're going to have a disease. And
Mhm.
if you're right about it, you're going to be healthy. And that's actually how it works. So it's pretty incredible. There's this sort of a powerful force at play here, I think, but it's love based, actually. It's
Mhm.
only when our fears and control and our belief systems get in between us and love and real love and truth that there's a problem.
Absolutely. It's a lot about discernment and being able to sense inside of you what feels nourishing. I love that word you used a minute ago, Paul, about nourishment. I say that all the time. It's how, like, our job is to nourish ourselves. That is the spiritual process, that's the goal, not the goal, but that's our mission, right? That's our responsibility, is to nourish ourselves. And we can nourish ourselves with frequencies that are supportive, or we can be taking in frequencies that are not nourishing and that are not supportive. So a lot of those are man-made. Maybe a few of them are not, like, I don't know, photobiomodulation may not be so horrible, but there are supportive man-made frequencies, but for the most part, they're not nature-based and love-based, right? Which are similar, they're the same. So yeah, it's a lot about what am I absorbing right now? What am I emanating right now? It's all
Yeah,
connected. This is the metaphysical, right, perspective, and it's all connected. What am I contributing and what am I absorbing? And that's what we should be thinking about on a day-to-day basis, right?
absolutely. I like what you're saying. What am I putting out and what am I absorbing? Or what am I contributing and what am I absorbing? And I'd want to add to that, a huge part of healing has to do with boundaries.
Yes.
Learning boundaries. So in our childhood, our boundaries were not respected, they were crossed, and we didn't really learn actual healthy boundaries. Our caregivers and the authorities thought this was healthy boundaries. Like, yeah, we have permission to cross your boundaries and do all these things to you. I saw, but anyways, we have to learn what actual healthy boundaries are to be healthy. And
Mhm.
so that means we start becoming conscious. What are we letting into our field? And then what are we allowing people to do to us? And and then also what are we doing to others? Usually out of fear. Are we controlling others? Like, so getting a healthy boundary in place means all the difference. It can mean all the difference.
Boundaries are essential. One of my mentors, actually in another marketing, I get great marketing mentorship, but she reframed it a little bit, Paul, and I really liked it. And I'm telling a lot of my clients about it, is boundaries stem from our standards. So it's our standards, or the minimum requirement of the level of quality we will, live, we espouse, is that this is what I choose for myself, right? So it's the again, discernment, the choice, the agency. Here's what I want to live at this level of quality. Then the boundaries stem from that. Yes, because the boundaries are about how we value ourselves and others. So I just love that idea that it's about the standards, but boundaries are everything, because that's how we contain our energy. That's what we're doing with our energy. All of our choices stem from our boundaries, and it starts with ourselves. right? Because people want to think about its boundaries about, or only about other people. No, it's about how we are containing ourselves or how we're guiding
Mm.
ourselves. That's where boundaries start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The like one of the most basic, simple things a person can do. I think probably anyone watching this podcast probably has already done this, but I'll just throw it out there, is to stop watching the news.
Oh, yeah.
Stop watching horror movies.
Hmm.
Stop listening to music that says things like love hurts, love's cruel, or because that's you don't want these types of energies coming into you, like you got to purify yourself and then learn how to use your power as a creator, listen to your soul and create something that feels good. Not just for you, but for others. But first, at least for you, and not at the cost of others. But let's figure out how to create beauty and love, in this world. And that's what's actually possible. So no, it doesn't have to be how it is today with the huge rate of disease. Um, yeah. So it certainly is motivating. Cancer is a motivating thing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a good way to look at it. Cancer is a teacher, cancer is a motivator, cancer is a messenger. It's not there to destroy you. Um, it's just been honestly given permission to destroy you if
Mm.
you don't want to um respond appropriately to the message. Then it
Yeah.
has permission. But it has no power really over a person.
Mm.
Only we only Like cancer occurs because really we're giving our power away somehow
Mm.
Yes.
Hmm.
already. And we got to get our power back and figure out what that really means. So I just said that, maybe that would mean something to a lot of people, but it might not really be
Yeah.
understood yet. It's got to be deeply understood and then embodied.
Mm.
You can't just heal intellectually, you have to heal through change.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful opportunity for rebirth, actually. It's like I think that humanity's changing.
Yeah.
I think the 2020 event was like really good from a different
Opened up a lot of
perspective.
people's eyes. Yes,
Yeah, and there's
absolutely.
some really potent seeds were planted.
Hmm.
If they
Hmm.
all already weren't, and the ones that were watered more. And it's like, so there's some light seeds like coming up through all this
There's
shit.
hope. There's hope.
Yeah.
There's real hope. There is.
Yeah.
And I had some leaf blowers here, so I had to mute myself for a while. I apologize. But a lot of things were coming up for me that I was thinking, and I was like, okay, like you break nature's laws, right? We have to follow nature's laws came up for me, like as you were talking, right? Like whether you're eating the McDonald's hamburger or the real cow, right? That was under the sunlight, grew under the pasture, regenerative farming, like all the things, right? You have to follow nature's laws. It's like a simple thing, like whether clean water or not, right? That's simple. Follow nature's law that everything is a frequency, like all of our emotions, right? Whatever we're feeling, those are all frequencies too, and they affect us, right? So I think like we have to think of it that way. And there was one other thing, but it just slipped my mind. But yeah, I mean, really amazing stuff. What you're saying about the heart, that was so cool. I know that was like 10 minutes ago, but that was really, really amazing. That was a great correlation.
Yeah, when I kind of discovered that, I was totally blown away. I think there's
Yeah.
some real validity to what
Yeah,
I'm saying there.
it makes so much sense. It
Yeah,
makes so
yeah.
much sense. Yeah, it was
And I've
really
worked with some people with heart disease too, and I know that it's related to heartbreak. Like heart
yeah.
disease is related to heartbreak of some kind. Something has
Yes.
happened.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And
Makes
we,
sense.
remind me when you plan to release your second book.
Yeah.
oh, I've made the error so many times of giving
I
a
bet.
date, and so I honestly can't confidently say I know when. What year are we in? 2020. I would really like to have it released by the end of this year, you
Well, we
know?
look forward to it whenever it does come out. Like, don't stress yourself out, right? Getting it done, right? You have to
Yeah,
take to
thanks.
nourish yourself and take care
Hmm.
of yourself. Oh, this is what I wanted to ask you. Um, do you find that a lot of people who develop cancer are people pleasers? Do you find that they lack the boundaries and
I,
they're very much people pleasers? Do you see that?
this
Is that a pattern you see often?
this is a topic in my training. What I
Yeah.
learned over the years is that rarely does a rebellious person develop cancer.
Ooh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I've
Mm.
noticed over the years that a rebellious person isn't necessarily on the path of health either. Like if we're too rebellious, that can become a problem.
Yeah.
Um, like rebellious people, like in the worst case scenarios, can be more susceptible to like suicide. That's what I've observed
Oh, yeah, that makes
in
sense.
worst, when it becomes a real problem.
Yeah.
But with cancer, it's most often not rebellious. It's the opposite, pleasing. Too
People
much of a
pleasers.
pleaser,
Yeah.
too submissive, too
Hmm.
passive,
Hmm.
um,
Yep.
afraid of confrontation.
Afraid to get angry. Yeah, afraid of
Yeah.
confrontation. Yep, that's
Yeah.
what I
And
see.
there's reasons for this. So I want to make sure that I'm not trying to, I don't want the feeling of guilt or shame for anyone
Right.
like to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah.
There's a real reason for this. It has to do with our childhood. It has to do with our
Hmm.
trauma.
Hmm. Hmm.
Humanity is, uh, I've got a lot of words coming to my mind. I should use like a professional, try to use a professional one. Um, this is a little lighter. Humanity can be a bit crazy with their concepts and beliefs about what's appropriate to do to children in order to guide them, let's say.
Mm.
I love to just present something which is that imagine if children had general permission to go up to their parents and say, Mom or Dad, um, it's time for you to clean the garage. And then the mother and the father is like, uh, you don't, what are you, like, what? And the child's like, are you talking back to me right now?
Mm.
Did you hear what I just said? And then if the mother and the father is like, I don't want to clean the garage right now. You can't tell me to go clean the garage right now. Like you can't do that. Like, and then what if our children had permission by society to grab them and drag them to the room and say, you can't come out of your room, mom or dad, for the next, 2 hours
Yeah.
until you promise to go clean the garage? Or what if children had permission and somehow the power and the strength to grab the mother or the father and pull their pants down and start hitting them on the butt, on the ass, smacking them over and over again and say, "Now, are you going to clean the garage when I tell you to?" Isn't this a little bit crazy? But it's become normalized, especially in the past at least. Like today there's a lot less spanking at least, but the amount of punishing and control
Oh, yeah.
is just it's normalized though. It just
Yeah.
appears to be like this is what we're supposed to do. Like this is how, but this actually causes major issues.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff that creates pleasers
Yes. Yes.
or rebels.
Or rebels because you feel like you're too controlled, so you want to go out and you want to push against, right? Or you're going to be
Yep,
a pleaser because you're like, God forbid I get in trouble again. So I'm just going to do it all. I'm going to make sure my room is always clean. I'm going to make sure my homework is done. I'm going to continue. I'm going to just do everything right because if I step
yep,
out of line, this is what's going to happen, right? So you become this pleaser, right? I got to do everything right
absolutely.
all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's such you could go either way, right? But yeah, I'm
Mhm.
so glad you're bringing that up because it's like we don't realize that the experience that we had as a child really shape our reality and who we are later in life. And the trauma that we experience at that time, and of course there's positives and negatives, of course, to all situations, but that is also going to depict our level of disease or health later on in the
Big time.
future. And no, we don't
Absolutely.
make those correlations, right? We don't
No,
think about it and we're like, oh, it was just a little T trauma. But Heather and I've had these conversations all the time. They really shape us. They
a
really
little
are
T
huge.
trauma.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
li- I
little.
like that because I call all the little t traumas trauma.
Yeah,
Like,
they're all,
you
no, they
know,
are. That's what I'm saying. It's not really a difference. It really is
yeah.
still a
Yeah.
trauma, is the point.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yes.
and and I also don't want to create a feeling of guilt or shame for parents because I just want to bring attention to the fact that generationally
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things happening that are being passed on in families
Yes.
that aren't actually healthy and they get programmed into us and we just repeat them like we don't
Mm-hmm.
even question them. That can happen. The other thing is parents can be so stressed out and so caught up in work and all the things that are going on in the world, the news,
Yeah.
that if we don't have enough time to ourselves and self-connection, our patience
Yeah.
gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and we actually become more prone to becoming like not loving, like doing something that's actually not
Yeah.
really appropriate or the most beneficial thing for our kids.
Right. Well, our modern
And
society is feeling that because we always have to hustle. We always have to work the 9 to 5. There's never any time to relax or take care of ourselves. Like if you're living in the modern matrix, right, is what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
That's what you're living. Because I know, because I've lived it. I've done it. I was a special ed teacher for 15 years. I lived the modern matrix, super controlling to my kids at times. I completely regret it, like now, knowing these things. And there's no guilt or shame because I'm more awake and aware, right? But it's just
hmm
like it's the you get sucked into that life. Like you have to be perfect, you have to do all these things, they got to go to the soccer, they got to go here. Like it's just like there's never
yeah.
time to breathe in modern living and in that matrix world, which is absolutely fueling disease, like I mean in so many ways.
Yeah,
So
we have to rebuild. See, once the root cause of cancer really reaches mainstream, because it's definitely not mainstream yet, but once it really reaches mainstream, and I'm not talking about a biological event that occurred in a person's body, that's not, we have to understand it deeper, like to really realize that we have to change society. Like we have to change our upbringing, we have to change the school system, we have to change, like so much has to be changed from the ground up. So thinking that cancer is a biological event that occurred and our body's just in a biological response, I don't find is helpful enough.
mhm.
That's like I said, it's good to go in that direction, but um
And I think you
yeah,
can relate
if
this to literally any disease. Like I
yeah,
know we're talking
this
that in the
is
frame of cancer, but it's really literally any disease as well, right?
well, all the other diseases, yeah, I think once you understand cancer, then you can just understand all the rest because
Yep.
cancer is kind of the peak of it.
Yes,
The
it's the
rest, the what I think is happening with the other diseases is that our energy field is getting stuck, released, stuck, open, stuck, released, and that causes disruption and inflammation and different types of problems.
mm,
Like
hmm
with cancer, it's 24 hours a day chronically stuck. It's like a full-blown suppression
mm,
being carried, and that causes that cancer. But when it's just like ongoing chronic stresses, you get into a fight with your partner, then you make up, then you get in a fight, then you make up, you're stressed about money, but then you pay the bill, but then you stress about money, and like this ongoing
hmm
thing, then that causes all kinds of other problems in the body. It's all just the same stuff. So there's that. And so, but we have the potential to be truly happy the
hmm
majority of the time. And we have the potential to love ourselves actually deep down and to have purpose in life that doesn't dependent on another. And and so on. We can be safe in this world. We can feel safe in it. We can, and we can have financial security and abundance. Our cup can run over, like some of the
mm,
religious teachings. And I think what's really missing is a healthy, more accurate understanding of and relationship with God. That's what I've kind
mm,
of come down to. I've really gone deep into this. I'm not talking about going to church, unfortunately. So some people that go to church might think, yes, now we can. That's not what I mean. I've had, like, honest to God, we, our connection with God is inside our heart. That's where it really is. You can be going to church and be disconnected from your heart. You can be
mhm,
reading the Bible and be disconnected from your heart. It does not necessarily mean you're connected to God. The Bible is meant to guide us, parts of it at least, are meant to guide us in the direction of having a healthy relationship with ourselves and God. And we really only just need to read it like once and the parts that are helpful. So I'm actually working on a Bible course
Wow.
to, yeah, because I want to explain some of the teachings of the Bible from my own perspective, based on
Mm,
all my
cool.
experience working on people, helping people with cancer. Because so many of my clients come to me and say, Paul, I've been praying to Jesus for every single night for the last year, and
Mhm.
now I'm stage 4 cancer. What's going on?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it
Hmm.
gets
You
really
know?
profound and intense. And I would love to have you back on if you're interested when you have more of that formulated and ready to present. Just we would love, I mean, I would love that, Vanessa. Would you?
Love it. Love it. I'm loving the conversation. It's amazing. Yes.
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, I'll let you guys know when I do it. I think that might be the next course I create.
Yeah.
I've been putting it together for like 2 years now, and I think it's ready to go. I've got right now I have 50, probably a little more than 50 now Bible passages that I want to explain
Mm.
from my perspective. So some
Mhm.
people are probably not going to like it,
Oh, well.
but
That's
my
okay.
goal, my sincere truth and my sincere prayer to God is that I understand these teachings and they're beneficial. So
Mm,
if we can read something from the Bible and it actually changes our life in a good way, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
mm.
But if we read something from the Bible that makes our life worse, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So we gotta, so that's why I've gotten into it. So yeah,
Especially if it instills fear, then it's going to make life worse. That's, because that frequency is not where you want to be. So that's
right. Yeah, we gotta get fear out.
yeah, no.
Fear is our greatest enemy on the path of
Yes.
spirituality.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
That is
Or
huge.
or our ego.
Yeah,
Maybe our
ego.
fear and our ego. I don't know which it is.
Well, we go together.
Which
Very
one's stronger?
well, let's see if our listeners who are wanting support or they want to find out more about your work and the programs you offer, tell them where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. If you'd like to get deep into this and learn some powerful tools for navigating life, preventing cancer and disease,
Mm,
and or
mhm,
reversing cancer, then yeah, I definitely invite you to come and join me in my level 1 and level 2 training.
mm,
Go to my website, rootcauseinstitute.com.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, both of my trainings come with a whole year of, we have a root cause community where we get together once a month over Zoom and share and talk about, well, it's more like it's asking me questions, but sharing what's going on, real life scenarios of people with cancer, or most of the people that take my training are coaches of some kind,
mhm,
naturopaths. I've had doctors taking the training now, holistic lifestyle, personal trainers, stay-at-home moms, lots of anyone passionate about just really getting to the root of things.
mm,
And so the calls are really valuable because we got like really good questions and really good topics that come up like every month.
mm,
So both of the trainings come with a monthly call. So some of the people that have taken the training, we're getting together every 2 weeks. So it's kind of like a year of training, but it's really
mm.
intense for a week.
Mhm.
6 days each training.
Wow. That sounds really, really incredible. Now, are you still working with people one to one
Hmm.
if they're diagnosed with cancer? Do you still do that? Do you offer that as well?
Yep, I do root cause session. In the root
Mhm.
cause session, I get to the root cause in one session all the time. It's like
Wow.
it's become fairly easy to figure it out now, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Wow.
Not easy, it's not easy to resolve it yet.
Yes.
Like
But at least you
because
know why. You know the cause.
but yeah, the door to actually healing opens after you really understand the root cause. Then you can start taking actions that are custom, that are specific, that are really addressing things.
Yes.
So it's important, the root cause.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We have
I'm
to,
wondering if you have time to share like just one short story, like just one short story of someone who's healed from cancer. Like do you want to do that? One.
Okay, yeah. I
I just
think
want to give somebody like hope and inspiration, like one short healing story.
that's a good idea. Yeah, let's end on a positive note.
Yeah.
Okay, let me think. Well, I'll give you an example of someone healing from, let me see here, because I can share some. Let's go with lung cancer.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, or we can go with testicular cancer or breast cancer.
Whichever story you think
But
is most
yeah,
inspirational. I'd love to leave with an inspirational story.
actually, how about skin cancer?
Sure. I'd love it.
So one of my clients with skin cancer, she had a um, divorce happen,
Hmm.
and then because of the challenges related to that, she developed skin cancer.
Hmm.
And a common emotion associated with skin cancer is worry,
Mhm.
Hmm.
whereas a common emotion with breast cancer, for example, is guilt.
Mm.
Um, there's another one too, but anyway, so she realized that she was actually losing herself in the stresses of the divorce, and realized that she really wasn't loving herself,
Mm.
and she had become attached to her um child, to one of her children.
Mm.
And so as she realized this through our coaching sessions, and then she had like um aha moments,
Hmm.
and then she turned inwards and started to practice trust and love herself, and then she actually went away and like went on like a little vacation and stuff like this. Her cancer went away, so she went back and
Mhm.
got tested, and her cancer is completely gone.
Mm.
So
Beautiful.
I kind of summed that up pretty fast. It took several sessions and to really work through it, because we had to get into kind of childhood as well.
Hmm.
So I don't want to give the impression it's simple, because it's not. Like a lot of people, I think people, when they start to realize what's really happening with cancer, then they think it might be simple or
Mm.
easy. Like, oh, okay. It's actually pretty complex, because we're dealing with fears, powerful emotions. We're dealing with our ego construct from childhood. So, but yeah, there's an example of skin cancer.
Is that like a
Maybe
6 month period of time, or what's the time frame from when she's,
I think that took 3 months.
oh,
That's
Yeah,
still really, that's still,
about
I
three
mean, I know
months.
that sounds like not fast, but it is kind of fast for healing cancer, I feel like.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's generally what I would say is the goal, is and sort of almost like an expectation, but it's important not to feel under pressure and try to rush things. But
okay.
it should, I don't think it should take more than 3 months to heal, really.
Mm.
Because if you're really focused, if you really
Mhm.
just focus on it and commit to it, then you're going to be able to get through all the layers of it and transform it. But it's all up to us as an individual too. Like to heal, we've got to find our way. We got to find our way ourselves, because no one else can do it for us.
No, that's so
That's
true.
that's the hard part about being a root cause practitioner, is that you have to also just hand over the responsibility, essentially, ultimately, to the client. If we've got, that's where our power is. That's like where their power is. It's in
Yes.
ourselves. It's in our,
Mhm.
so we've got to grow. But
Mm.
it's powerful to be a team with someone and to go through it as well.
Mhm.
Mm. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it
So
is.
if there's more testimonials on my website, if you want to see some other examples, so we've got a bunch of testimonials
Yeah.
on there.
I'm
Yeah,
sure you do. I just wanted to like put that out there for somebody to hear
yeah,
that inspirational
yeah.
story. So thank you.
I'm
Appreciate it.
excited about more coming. And in the past, like how I started, I was living with people for 30 days. And
Hmm.
back then, I had a 90% success rate with people healing.
Mm.
When 2020 hit, I had to sell my place and let it go, and I went online. So for the
Mm.
last 3 years, like in the beginning, I was just doing a single session with a person, but now I'm accumulating testimonials from this online work. And
Mm.
I think we've been actually having more breakthroughs recently as well. So, because
Nice.
it took me a whole year to make my level 2 training, and but yeah, I realized the deepest healing isn't actually when someone comes and lives with me. It's when they heal in their own creation.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm.
Because I found that when people came and lived with me, 90% healed, and only 60% stayed healed when they left.
Oh, so it's how much they
This-
embodied and how much did they actually go
Mhm.
through the full rebirthing process and fully own their own reality,
Right.
right? And then carry
Yeah.
that energy forward? Or were they still kind of like you were sort of right supporting them and then they
Yeah.
didn't fully do their own process?
I was too much of the source. And
Yeah.
like when you, yeah, so I learned that back then. And so I have like a refined approach now. And so my newer testimonials aren't from my residency.
Mm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
And those are the ones that I feel better about, really. Like, I mean, of course, they're all good, but
Yeah.
yeah, lasting healing, like really rebirth, just like you said.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you for the work that you're doing and your time here, sharing all of this incredible knowledge with our audience. It was an amazing conversation, Paul. So we thank you for that. And yeah, we hope that people reach out if they're, they are dealing with cancer or they even just want to prevent cancer. I'm sure, like if you're, working on this whole process, it will help not happen, right? So I hope they reach out to you and work with you because I know it's going to make a huge impact. So we really, really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. I'm glad you brought up prevention as a focus because I think
Yes, prevent
that's the
it.
real solution is still prevention. You know,
Yeah,
we
and it's
gotta
not going to get a mammogram. That's not your prevention, people.
right. We gotta learn all the tools for life that we didn't learn in childhood. And we
Yes.
gotta
Oh,
learn to love ourselves now and then become abundant. Our cup is meant to run over. Our cup must run over.
Yes,
If
yes.
our cup is running over, we're not going to develop cancer.
Mm.
yes.
So
Oh,
that's what we
I love
need to
it.
learn. Yeah.
And just to be
Beautiful.
clear, your level one and twos are for everyone. It's not like you have one track for the people who want to become expert in your approach,
Oh
and
yeah.
another track for people who don't want to use it professionally, right?
Yeah, it's for everyone. It's for personal development at the very least. Yeah,
Mhm.
really important tool. We can't really be successful unless we keep our health throughout life, right? Like we got to have health, happiness, and success all together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone has cancer, they could still just take that route, level 1 and 2 training. But when someone has cancer, I usually do one-on-one stuff with them
Yeah, it makes more
because,
sense.
Got it.
yeah, yeah. So,
That makes
Mhm.
sense. All
yeah.
right. Thank you so much.
But if you see on the website, you'll see some people that took our training had cancer, and we have testimonies of them healing. So,
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
yeah. Some people that have cancer took our training, didn't heal. So it's not that every single person that takes our training heals, but we do have people that have healed now from our training. So, and
Mm.
everything just keeps getting refined. And whenever someone doesn't heal, all throughout the years, I've really reflected on that and tried to figure out like how could
Mm.
they have been helped better? Like what, So I'm constantly um
Fine tuning things.
expanding and fine tuning. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not about blame at all, but sometimes I wonder if there's things that people just are not able to face. It's just there's
Yeah.
I've realized that.
overwhelming.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
I've
only so
realized
much you
that.
can do, right? Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but I still just keep working on ways to help increase their ability to face the thing they have to face.
Yeah,
But that is it's like as you say that I agree, yes. But then this other part of me is like, yep, but we gotta find another way.
Find a way
Yeah.
to
well,
accept it.
that's your passion shining through, Paul. You have a
Yeah.
passion, obviously. So it's good. It's good. You're helping a lot of people. So it's
Thank you so
amazing.
much. Thank you.
Yes.
I really enjoyed the talk too. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. Thank you.